Okay, in the engine bay. This is a GM high performance 6-liter. So it was a motor designed for MBS trucks essentially. And so it has LS3 heads, DOD deletes, an iron block, but it has LS3 architecture, which is a bit of a challenge. It would have been smarter just to buy an LS3, and this just was a great deal, and this is the motor we're using for now. So MAXXECU has a map sensor that's integrated. So if I was to show you the back of the motor, this goes to, actually it's right here, this goes to a T. This is the fuel pressure regulator line, and it's going to tee off to a 5/30 seconds, which goes into the main harness back there for the Max, giving us map signal. Okay, and that pass-through has a nice little cover plate that goes there, so that'll look good. We'll have referenced fuel pressure for data, telemetry data for the Max. I don't have my main harness back yet, so when that comes in, all this gets tucked away nice and clean. Our fan signal here, fan 1 and 2 on a Deutsch DTM. Here's our cooling line connection for the 8HP, which goes to the thermostatically controlled oil cooler side for this truck. This is, street truck, burnout trucks, not track. It's not road racing. Doesn't really need a ton of cooling capacity, because we're not going to be doing a lot of abuse on the transmission, like clutch kicks and stuff like that. MAF is eliminated clearly. MAP is integrated into this line, so this gets plugged, and it is. The wiring harness is pretty good from MAXXECU. It's not perfect. There's a couple of connections I had to redo, some stuff I had to extend, but they do a pretty good job giving you what you need. And if you're deep into this game, changing some of that stuff at this point just becomes, child's play. Extending a knock sensor here, or whatever, it's just so easy at this point. This motor ran and drove fine with the stock computer, so we're expecting very little challenges when we do the first start. Brett Willett, my tuner, and I bench tested the whole wiring harness without an engine. So, we had throttle working, gas, E-pedal working, all that, which I failed to show in the cab video. But there's an E-pedal in there from Holley now instead of the factory cable, and that's a little plug there. Gets rid of the throttle by cable in this truck. Right. There's more to go, and there's more to do, but a lot of progress has been made, and we should be able to fire this thing up next week once we get this harness back. And as I said, any issues we have came from moving the harness from the bench where everything worked to the truck. And we know the engine ran perfect with the factory, 2004 computer. So if we have an issue, it's either the wiring harness we had made, it's something to do with the migration, or it's a sensor not picking up something it should, which we'll troubleshoot all that before we test fire it. All right, I'm going to raise the truck up, show you some of the details underneath.